Hey guys, welcome to the channel. And today we are doing a replacement of the window regulator on this 2001 Toyota Camry. Now sometimes the window doesn't go up or down, and sometimes it moves very slowly. So we're going to be fixing this on the driver's side here. First, we need to remove the door panel on the driver's side over here to get access to the window regulator. Now there is a screw, a Phillips screw right here and over here on the side of the door. So these are the two visible ones that you will notice right away when opening the door. Under the power window switches, there are two more Phillips head screws that you need to remove. At the very bottom of the door, there are actually two more Phillips screws that you need to remove. So you can either use a regular Phillips screwdriver, or you can use a power drill like this to remove the Phillips screws. The last Phillips screw is in the door handle in front of the lock. So after removing the screw from the handle up above, you actually can remove the plastic behind the handle. And then the next step is to remove the power window assembly over here by just gently prying with a flathead screwdriver. And you just try to make sure you don't break the clips that are on the front and back. But once you get it up so far, you can actually move it around and try to kind of get it out of the rubber. It's almost like a rubber kind of piece, but you can see right here, you got to remove that connector and then it can come off. So to unhook the power window module, you can see this clip over here. You press the middle button, and I have it kind of halfway out, but I wanted to show you guys where it is. So you would have to press on that and pull it out with two hands, and you should be able to disconnect the module and put it aside because you'll need it later to help you with the window. Next, get yourself a flathead screwdriver and try to place it in between the metal door and the interior piece, and just get close to the clips. There are clips all throughout the door, and you just try to get close to it and just pry on it a little bit and make sure you don't break the clips because they're important. But you just slowly go around and just kind of pry up a little bit, just gently, and it should pop up and you should be able to pull it off by picking it up and pulling up. So it just takes a little bit of wiggling, and you just try to make sure that everything is okay. Just don't pull on it too hard. Before you can remove the plastic protectant around the door, you have to remove this metal plate down below. And they are Phillips screws, and there's about 3 of them that you have to take off that's blocking the plastic shield from being removed. Another component that needs to be removed for the plastic to be taken off the door is this door handle. And it takes a Phillips screwdriver to remove the screw over here. And then after you take that off, you actually can slide it through an opening in the plastic. So you kind of gently get it through the opening. Just try not to rip the plastic, but you should be able to pull it through without any problem. You just slowly guide it through, and then you can pull off the plastic. And then down there behind here is the bolts that are holding the window regulator. Before we remove the window regulator assembly, we have to separate the glass window from the regulator, so it'll be easier to pull out without the glass getting in the way. Now you have to get the power window module back and plug it in, and now you have to try to open the window, which is bringing the window down, and you should be able to get it down to that point, and you should be able to remove the bolts. To separate the glass window from the window regulator, you need to remove the bolt on the left and the bolt here on the right. After removing those two bolts on the other side of the door, you want to pull up the glass away from the assembly and pull it up to the top and get yourself some tape and tape it so that it doesn't fall down on you while you're trying to get the window regulator out of the door. You may need some help on doing this step. After you've secured the glass window all the way up, you want to remove the 5 12mm bolts that's holding the window regulator against the metal frame door. Now it's time to remove the window regulator. Now we're trying to figure out how to pull it out, and we noticed that there is one more bolt that's holding the rail here on the left. So taking that off, it released the window regulator. And it's a little tricky trying to get your hands in here, but you try your best and just not bend it too much, and you try to pull it out. But one thing we noticed, it was kind of getting stuck, and we're trying to figure out what that was. We thought it was hung up somewhere. But then we noticed that there was a wire all the way to the front part of the door that was getting caught, and we kind of finally discovered that it was getting hung up. So that meant we had to remove the connector before the regulator could be pulled out. Now we're trying to figure out how to put the regulator back in so that there is some more slack for the connector, because the wire was kind of really pulled on it. We're trying to get it back in. It's a little tricky sometimes, and we thought we could try to remove the connector from here with it almost pulled out, but it was kind of giving us a little bit of trouble. So the best thing is to try to put the regulator back in where it was inside the door. You can kind of get stuck sometimes, so you just gotta wiggle it and put it back. So we just set it down on the bottom. It gave us a little bit more room to remove this connector. So that's the power connector for the window regulator to make it go up and down. Now you can take a flathead and you can pop it off from the metal frame, which gives you a little bit of room to pull these connectors, because sometimes these connectors are really hard to take apart because you got to press on a little tab, and it's just really hard sometimes. So you can use a flathead to help you press on it. Just be very careful not to break the connector or the wires, but there you go. You just pull it off and then kind of feed it through that hole, and it gives you a way to pull it out. And it's almost like a puzzle. You just got to move it around through that opening, and that's how you pull the old regulator out. Next is to reinstall the new window regulator into this door. Now you got to try to figure out the orientation and how it looked like originally whenever you pulled it out. But it shouldn't be too hard if you remember where the bolt holes were on the window regulator. So you want to set it inside and try to feed the power cable back through the top where we originally disconnected. So you want to try to pick it up as high as you can over here at an angle, and he's trying to feed the wire up on the top so that he can grab it from the little hole. And then once you get it out, you actually could plug it back into the metal frame here where it has like a hole for it, and then you can plug that back in, make sure it gives a good snap, and then you have power back to it. Now the next part is trying to line up the bolt holes or the screw holes for the window regulator. So it can be a little tricky, and you just gotta position it in a spot where you can hand tighten one of the bolts so that it can at least hold it up. And then you just don't want to tighten it yet, but you just have it where it's holding it, and you can adjust the window regulator to where you need it to be. So sometimes you gotta have it at an interesting angle, and you just slowly do your best. It looks like I gotta help him out a little bit to hold it in place, because it can be pretty heavy while trying to put in the bolt. When you line up the regulator in the right position, you can start threading in one of the bolts through the hole into the regulator to hold it up. And then you kind of move it around. You don't want to tighten the bolt at first, because you want to be able to move it into position for the next bolt to be placed so that it can hold the regulator better. And you just got to move it around and look through the hole and see if you can see the threads for the regulator. So you should have some good lighting. Now, if you look at the old one, there's 4 places where you mount the bolts, and that's what he was trying to line up over here. So it takes a little bit of finesse to try to get these bolts put in, but if you're careful enough, you can find them and actually put them in and hold the regulator up into the door panel. Over here is the 2 last bolts that hold the window regulator, and as you can see, he's hand tightening it, but it's a little tricky. There's a bar right here, and you can see the old one, there's those 2 positions where you can put the bolts, but on the old one, it's rigid and it slides left and right. And the new one, they cut it off over here. It says loose, so we had to move it back and forth to get it in the right position. After securing the window regulator to the door, you want to have someone help you remove the tape and bring down the glass slowly without breaking it. And then you slide it down to where the window regulator rail is over here. And then you get the 2 screws that were holding the window to the window regulator, and carefully you just reinstall the bolts, and it should hold the window back to the window regulator. After securing the glass with the window regulator, you should be able to reverse the steps of disassembly of the door panel, and then you should be able to test your brand new power window. Thanks for watching.